Dun, 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 dun. Spect. The Panthers are ranked the best championship team over the last decade. We'll discuss all this and more on today's Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, August 15th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. That is Florida Panthers historian Francisco Oporta. You can follow him on X at FLA Cats History. If you also want to check out his Marlins work, you can check him out on X as well at Marlins History. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can do that all on Game Time. Shout out to everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Grateful to be back here on the show. Today, we're going to discuss the Panthers and their rank for the last 10 years, not only the 2025 team, but where does 2024 stand? We'll discuss days with the Cup as the Cup is still going around Europe. We'll discuss some of the new Panthers champions who got their day, and we'll discuss Brad Marchand saying that he'll play out the remainder of his contract after signing a 6-year deal with the team. Francisco, welcome to the show, as both you and I are still enjoying doing some summer content this year. As when you win a championship, as we discussed pre-recording, it just feels so great making the content. And hey, these topics that we're talking about makes it a lot easier to have a great summer, even though we are 53 days away from opening night.
Yeah. And it's been great as far as kind of people reminiscing, looking back at stuff, and even going back to, I've been posting a lot of stuff that went back to days before this golden era of Panthers hockey, because there's a lot of people that went through a lot of pain, but there's still memories associated with that. And it's been fun looking back at sort of the early ages of the Panthers, those first 10 years, but then those middle 10 years where it felt like a dark period in the history of the franchise, but still people have sentimental feelings for it because they went through all that. And that's why the Panthers and their fans being in this era feels deserved.
Yeah. And you sharing some of the items from the arena sharing of the past was shared actually on Bardown TSN of the claw gloves that you consistently like to talk about on your page as well. So they gave you a little bit of a shout out. Also, your tweet on Matthew Tkachuk and the NHL cover, and then maybe dissing the Tampa Bay Lightning a little bit there. So,
I haven't gotten a chance to speak about it, but yes, NHL 26, Panthers are riding high. We've got Tkachuk on the cover now. Second Panther to ever be featured on the cover of the NHL series from EA. And as much as Lightning fans hate it, nobody really identified with any of your players. They were just kind of there, okay? Mm-hmm. And there was no outward personality that you could attach yourself to in comparison to this Panthers team and some other Cup champions that happened before or after them. So that's all that I'm saying, okay? Grumpy Russian guy and Kucherov doesn't really move the needle for a lot of people. And that's it. And yep. He's a hot hand right now that people want to see, people want to talk about. And so, yeah, he gets the cover.
No doubt. And speaking of TSN, they released they had 15 of their personalities there for their page Bardown, ranked the last 10 Stanley Cup champions over the last decade. And they and if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you guys will get the opportunity to see the spreadsheet, the handy dandy spreadsheet that I made. I put every single ranking 1 through 10 of what they put. I went through every single slide, averaged it out, and the average number of who is at number 1 is a 2025 Florida Panthers. They are seen as the best championship team over the last decade. This goes all the way back to the first of the back-to-back from the Penguins from 2016. And the way I also want to look at certain statistics when it comes to each team and their ability to win the cup, I looked at a few things. I looked at 5-on-5 goal differential. I looked at how many times teams have trailed in a series. I looked at power play percentage and PK's percentages. Those are the main barometers that I looked at when it came to looking at this ranking. But one thing that's not noted here that is very crucial for the Panthers here is just once again how much time that they have spent leading in the 2025 Stanley Cup final. And it's crazy to think that Edmonton still won 2 games in this year's final. They are seen as number one. The 2024 team, if you're listening on audio, they're ranked as the 5th best team in the last 10 years. So what stands out for you when you're looking at this list? So right now it's Panthers, 2021 Lightning, 2022 Avalanche, 2020 Lightning, 2024 Panthers, Vegas Golden Knights, 2016 Penguins, 2017 Penguins, Capitals, and then the 2019 Blues.
I mean, look, I'm still not trying to trash the Tampa Bay Lightning and their fans. Don't take it that way, but I'm very surprised that the 2020 Lightning ranked that high at number 5. I would think that they would have been discounted just because of the fact that we had a much different playoff format. There were no fans in comparison to the 2021 squad. That's all that I'm saying. I thought they might be docked a few points just for that alone, because I think if you had ranked that in other sports with like the Lakers and the Dodgers, fans would probably have, and maybe some analysts would have dropped them down as well and say, hey, look, that one, we're going to dock you some points just because of the strangeness of those seasons. Whereas the 2021 one, I'll give it to them. The 2020, I thought maybe higher than I expected, especially when you have those Penguins teams out there. Especially
and
one that went back to back.
Yeah, especially. And you think about for the Tampa Bay Lightning there in the 2021 run to the Stanley Cup final, Vasilevsky was unstoppable. 937 save percentage, as you guys can see, as I wrote some of the notes there. Their power play was outstanding. I remember that first round. Every time the Panthers went to the box against the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's just they couldn't find a way to stop them. And also, Bobrovsky wasn't playing to his best. Even in that series, we hadn't seen the best of Sergei Bobrovsky as well. But then I look at some of the teams that are kind of like down in the standings in this ranking as well, where St. Louis, they were last place in January and then ended up 3rd in the division, and then in their run to winning Game 7 in Boston, trailed 5 times in their run. And also the 2018 Washington Capitals, there was a decision of Barry Trotz, and a lot of people thinking, why are you starting Phil Grubauer in the first 2 games against Columbus? They lose both of those games, and then insert Braden Holtby, who's won a Vezina Trophy. They make this run. They finally get over the hump of the Pittsburgh Penguins, beating them in 6 games. But also another surprising thing, the best goal differential at 5-on-5 is the 2023 Vegas Golden Knights at +33. Their power play was just over 11%. And to think that Jack Eichel, he was a Conn Smythe favorite through 2 rounds in that 2023 playoff, and then Jonathan Marchand just stole the show in the last 2 rounds. Unfortunately, it came against the Florida Panthers, but they're ranked 6th, the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm surprised they're that low as well. I understand the 2021 Tampa Bay Lightning, but I mean, and 2020 was also great. Victor Hedman, Conn Smythe winner, over a point per game for a defenseman and a +13 as well. So I understand the Capitals where they're ranked. I understand where the Blues are ranked. Vegas is a little low for me. And also, here's the other thing about Colorado. Let's give respect to Colorado. They never trailed once during their run. Only lost 4 times in their entire run to 2022. 2 sweeps in that as well. One against St. Louis and one against Edmonton in the Western Conference Final.
I think you also have to take into account the opponent that they faced as well. With the Blues, that one did feel more like a miracle run. I think there's some
Yeah.
benefit of hindsight afterwards, where you're looking at what happened to those teams afterwards. St. Louis, it was that run, and then
Mhm.
after that, the team kind of just fell apart after that.
Mhm.
Washington, the same thing. They didn't make it past the first round. They didn't make it past a single playoff round until this season after
Barry
they won
Trotz
their
left
cup.
after as well.
Yeah, as well. So you had that. Pittsburgh, that was also their last hurrah with that group, because now it's just kind of they're just kind of spinning their wheels, and will they, won't they, as far as moving some of their veterans out there. And I mean, with Vegas, you had this Panthers team. Maybe the 2023 Panthers squad was seen as just like a miracle fluke run, but now with the benefit of hindsight, you're like, oh no, that was a team that just figured it out right
Mhm.
at the end, and now look at the juggernaut they became into. So maybe Vegas does deserve a little more kudos compared to that. And then you've got the Colorado Avalanche beating the Lightning team that had won 2 previous seasons, and the quality of that opponent as well. And then you've got the Panthers, who, I mean, people picked the Oilers as the favorite in this past final. And
Yeah.
so, and then you saw how much the Panthers actually thrashed the Oilers. Surprisingly, Oilers did get 2 games in that series, but when you look at it, it's like, well, was it really the Oilers that won those games, or just the Panthers that kind of let the foot off the gas or made a mistake or two that cost them there, because the games that they lost were pretty close.
Yeah, the Arvidsson goal
Mhm.
in game one was a backbreaker when they were just when they were only up 3-1 for just a few
Right.
minutes, and then
And then
it was
a
a one
puck over
goal.
the glass, yeah. And
Yeah,
then there was that, and then of course the Draisaitl with the when the Panthers were leading just that game, um, uh, 3-0, and then Edmonton comes back and just the Panthers let the foot off the gas, and they'll probably tell you, and then they didn't afterwards. So I'm happy that the Panthers overall putting it together were number one in most people's eyes. I don't know if it's recency bias as well, but given the way that people have analyzed this Panthers team after they've won the cup, and the way that they've constructed the team, people are giving much more respect, saying this is the best Stanley Cup champion of the salary cap era.
yeah, no doubt. And also the Panthers in 2024 and 2025, their penalty kill rank is 1 and 2. With 2024 just being slightly higher. So they've they've proven it, winning it with defense, and the numbers definitely show it here for, as far as the last 10 championships. But we are gonna transition over to segment number 2, where we are gonna continue our discussion on days with the cup and some of the new guys that have gotten their opportunities to have their days and what they and we'll discuss all that and more next here on the Lockdown Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And we've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale. You only lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets a lot faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime. You can save up to 60% off killer last minute deals. And with it being the dog days of summer, you get an opportunity to go to some shows. If you are happen to not be into baseball, that is an opportunity for you guys. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And I would like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday here with Florida Panthers historian Francisco Oporta. Some news is that the Florida Panthers have signed right-handed defenseman Mike Benning to a 1-year two-way deal, a cap hit of $775K. If he were in the minors, his salary would be $100K. He's still waivers exempt, but will be arbitration eligible come this offseason. And Zach Dalpe, congratulations to Zach Dalpe, hired by the Seattle Kraken as the player development consultant. So big ups to him as he's taking the next stage in his hockey career. So also, Charlotte is filled with also right-handed defensemen in Miklas Hovorka, Ludvig Jonsson. So maybe that next right-handed defenseman after Jeff Petrie, if they want to go on the cheap, maybe it's right there in Charlotte. But let's discuss about where the cup has been, Francisco. So recently it was in Finland, where Lundell brought it to an amusement park, brought it onto a coaster, ate some salmon soup. But then it was brought to Latvia and Czechia recently. Uvis Balinskis, Tomas Nosek, and Vitek Vanecek have all gotten their days with the cup. So Uvis is one of 3 Latvians ever to bring the Stanley Cup to Latvia. One of them, Stanis Ozolins, in 1996, Colorado Avalanche, who beat the Florida Panthers. And then the other one, Teddy Bluger, when he played for the Vegas Golden Knights in 2023. So the connection in Latvia when it comes to bringing the Stanley Cup is either a Panther has won it, or the guy who has won it has defeated the Florida Panthers. So I guess that's a little bit of a trend there.
Yeah, and Stanis Ozolins was also a former Panther as well.
Yep. So yeah, that's another thing for as far as Florida Panthers connections. But next one is Tomas Nosek. We talk about his story all the time. You mentioned the amount of criticism that he got after game 1, responds after, gets the last shift in game 6. There's audio of Paul Maurice, brought it to his youth arena, Ontario Arena it's called. Spoke about Milan Hedjuk bringing the cup to Czechia when Nosek was just 9 years old for his hockey team, HC Dynamo Perdubis. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. And also, he has an appreciation for teachers, as his mother is a school teacher and his father is a track and field coach. But I don't know if you saw the video, Francisco. There was also a celebration later on a stage setup, which looked like it was a concert. The barricades looked similar to like what you would see at like these rock festivals and just the separation. But then it looked like thousands of people. It looks like it was a musical performance, but no, it was Tomas Nosek with thousands of people. And also Vitek Vanecek, his countryman, there with him to celebrate. And also the pic that made rounds on the internet, which we are showing here on the podcast, the matching tattoos between the two guys of the Stanley Cup near their rib cage, which I have a few tattoos, my friend, and those not near the rib cage. That looks absolutely painful.
Yeah. It's great seeing all of this. And you saw how much the Panthers respected Vitek Vanecek in that locker room. He even got one of the game pucks, even though he did not play a single game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It was all Sergei Bobrovsky throughout, but they still gave him one of the game pucks because they respected him, obviously in the practices and being on the bench there. And once again, tons of love within that locker room. And the same thing with Tomas Nosek, because remember he got taunted after he flipped that puck over accidentally over the board. So and then the Panthers turned it around on the Edmonton Oilers, defending him in that sense. And of course, he was one of the guys that got the cup first, being one of the newbies, the way that they planned that out with the hoisting of the cup.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And in Tomas Nosek's celebration, there was also the mini Stanley Cup being lifted, and then Nosek coming right behind him to also lift it himself. So it was also a nice little sequence there for during the celebration, as far as like the videos that we saw there. And then Vitek Vanecek recently had his day with the cup the very next day on Wednesday, actually. And he actually arrived in a Tatra truck, which is a Czechia vehicle manufacturer, the type of truck that is. And also he spoke about also another player of Joseph Vanecek. Sounds very similar to Vanecek, but a little bit of a different spelling and pronunciation, who won with the Carolina Hurricanes in 2006, but unfortunately was killed in a plane crash in 2011. So he's the second player from his Vanecek's hometown to bring the cup, and also spoke about the second Czech players to get the second former Capital to get a Stanley Cup Championship tattoo. There's also a viral video of his former teammate Jakub Vrana about his reaction to getting a Stanley Cup tattoo on his wrist, and then just yelling. The video of Vrana is him just saying, "Just hit me with the puck. This hurts." So different areas that places guys are daring to go. I mean, Ekblad's got his immediately after the 2024 one, but his was right on his thigh. So you're talking about two different vulnerable areas for where these guys are getting them.
Yeah, that's why I don't have any tats. So I don't have the stomach for it.
It's an acquired, just like for people's favorite beer, it's an acquired pain. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So
yeah, that's fine. I'll buy merch and stuff with the cup all over it. I'll make my own stuff as well. So that's all fine and dandy for me. It's enough for me. I'll wear it on top of me instead of having it on me.
Well, speaking of stuff, there is actually, before we transition over to segment number 3, your merch line has made a few rounds, including on Hard Knocks, which Mike White, I'm sure we are familiar with him, South Florida native, Pembroke Pines and big Panther fan, was seen on Hard Knocks wearing your merch line there with the F and then the Panther right behind it there. So pretty cool that your merch line is getting a little bit of exposure there. So pretty cool thing. What was it? How'd you find out about that? Were you actually watching, or did
it was no? It was on Instagram. One of my followers there sent me a photo. He's like, I just noticed this. So I'm like, oh wow, and I didn't realize who it was. And it was like, and someone suggested one of the comments when I posted on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. That looks like Mike White. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He's from down here. That kind of makes sense. He's on the Bills now. And then I looked on HBO Max to see it, and then I found it. I'm like, oh, let me send the screenshot and post it for myself. And then I actually watched another interview he did in his front of his locker room on Bill's YouTube channel, and you can see the hat on the shelf behind him. So I'm like, all right, there we go, Mike White. So we're wearing the Mike White special right now. You got the shirt there, I got the hat. So
yep. So Mike White representing the Florida Panthers, and so pretty cool there that it got featured on Hard Knocks. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss more about Brad Marchand discussing his desire to play the entirety of the 6-year deal that he signed this summer with the Florida Panthers. We'll discuss that and more next here on the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling for your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, maybe that's the Miami Dolphins this year, maybe not, but a different secondary, the team still has a lot of questions, or if you're ready to crown a Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So maybe I'll take a chance on maybe Lamar Jackson winning the MVP again. Will Josh Allen win back-to-back MVPs? And will the Kansas City Chiefs find a way to avenge after losing in the Super Bowl last year? So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on this Friday, August 15th edition. Armando Velez here with Florida Panthers historian Francisco Oporta, and some more housekeeping is the three ice tournament just wrapped up. And by the time you guys hear this episode, you guys will know who the champion is. And also, the LatAm Cup begins this Sunday, August 17th at the Panthers Ice Stand. That will feature 62 countries from across the world, mostly Latin America. So if you want some of your hockey fix, make sure to check that out this weekend. August 17th to August 24th, the LatAm Cup will be returning to South Florida. And also during the 3 Ice tournament, Francisco, Ray Bork, one of the coaches for the team, had the opportunity to chat with Casey Hintz of Local 10 and discuss just Brad Marchand's legacy of being a Boston Bruin and how beloved he is. And we've realized of how beloved he is here. Also, we spoke about. I noticed especially how loved he was in the event at Dairy Queen, which Brad Marchand did an event for Dairy Queen over in his home province in Halifax. Had to unfortunately relocate to a different Dairy Queen due to some fires, but still he's paying it forward for off the ice. But there was a quote from Brad Marchand the other day on just the questions of his contract and whether he's going to play. And in the beginning of the offseason, once the Panthers signed him to that deal, I was thinking, okay, play a few years, then LTIR it. But then I have the right to change. I also think about this. I have the right to change my mind based on information that I researched and looking at the history. We are with Florida Panthers historian, and also he is also an NHL historian to a certain extent. Discuss it and looking up the amount of players who have gone into their 40s and played an NHL game. And I looked it up. It's higher than I thought. 79 players have laced up the skates and played into their 40s. And when I look at Brad Marchand and what he said the other day, I was very quick to make a conclusion on it, but now I'm just thinking about how his motivation is and how when you think about how much he was doubted for being a short guy, not being a high draft pick, and then exploding once he got into the playoffs in 2011 with the Bruins. I mean, I get why he still wants to play that long. There's a little bit of that chip on the shoulder plus the love of the game.
Yeah, I think with Brad Marchand in comparison to and for hockey players in comparison to other sports, I mean, basketball players, it's rare to see guys go to 40. People are amazed at what LeBron James is doing right now. NFL, man, it's super rare for a 40-year-old. And Brad Marchand played in Boston, right next to Tom Brady. Look how far Tom Brady went as well. So there's probably some inspiration going from that. Baseball, every now and then you get a 40-year-old out there, but that's also pretty rare as most guys kind of retire in their late 30s if they make it there long enough. So, surprisingly, hockey's got a few just guys that just keep on ticking. It's strange given the physicality of the sport, maybe it's just some guys are just built for it. Maybe it's just the conditioning. Maybe it's just the way that the body recovers in hockey in comparison to other sports, where they just keep that motor running. And you got a bunch of guys that do make it past 40 in all sorts of positions too. You got defensemen, you got some goaltenders, you got forwards as well. So it's not really one or the other. It's just a matter of just guys that can just keep it going. The Panthers have had a few of those guys as well. Jaromir Jagr, Roberto Luongo. So it's not unheard of for Brad Marchand. And if you look at his career, going through the amount of games played that he's had in his career, he's for the most part either played. I don't know if he's played an entire season, probably some of the shortened seasons, 2013, 2020, 2021, but he's played for the most part 90% of games that he's in seasons he's involved in. So he's never had a major injury history. He played 71 games last season as well. So he's had the conditioning and the history of staying healthy to make you think, yeah, 3 more seasons at the very least to get to 40. I can see that for Brad Marchand if he just keeps his conditioning up. And from what I've seen of the offseason, and all the guys are also posting their offseason workouts, he's not slowing down anytime soon.
He's on the elliptical, going hard on it. 16 years, he's exactly at 1,100 games, no more, no less. So I divided that by 16 years, just under 69 games. Nice. But so he's around that average when it comes to the amount of games played in his entire career. And I mean, you think about for Brad Marchand, he's 20 points away from 1,000. So you look at, and also you think about for where the guys he's played with, even on the Canadian national team, and all the other guys who have had high, who've been drafted high. He, along with Zach Hyman and Brandon Hagel, are one of the few guys who were not those high profile guys when it came to their draft status. So also when you think about the games that if his desire to play the entirety of the deal, if he were to play the entirety of it, he's going to get close to around 1,500, 1,600 games. So that puts him in a position, because of longevity, into the Hall of Fame. And look at all these players. You mentioned Roberto Luongo. You mentioned Jaromir Jagr. Ed Belfour played his last season with the Florida Panthers. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of Gordie Howes or Chris Chelios's a lot. So that's another thing. But here's the quote from Brad Marchand. Quote, "They're going to have to kick me out of the league for me to go. I'm going to play until I can't play anymore." When I heard one of my coaches say that, it always stuck to me. The longer you play, you realize how close you are to the finish. It's like you want to hold on to that as long as you can. That's always my mindset, and it is today. I want to play as long as I possibly can. Close quote. So yeah, whenever it comes to just the motor and just once again, we spoke about the love of the game for Brad Marchand. I'm excited to see what is next, whether it's playing full seasons, long playoff runs, and just the antics of how he's going to bother the opposition. Now it's on the side of the Florida Panthers. When we watched the Panthers against the Bruins for so many years, and we're just like, oh, Brad Marchand, now it's on the side of the Panthers.
Yeah, and you have to think about the role that he's going to be serving on the Panthers. Remember, they placed him on the third line. With the Boston Bruins, he was the captain of the team, and he had some higher expectations, especially with the retirement of Patrice Bergeron and those guys. So with the Panthers, he's not going to be the captain. He doesn't have to have those duties. I don't know. They might give him the A. Who knows with regards to that? But as far as the role that he's going to play, we know he's perfectly comfortable with playing that third line, and we saw some magic there with Lundell and Luostarinen. And as he gets older in his career, I mean, you can even have him down on the fourth line as well. So I feel like he's going to play out at least 4 of those seasons, okay, and is willing to take a different role depending on the needs of the team.
Yeah, no doubt. And right now, what he's paid is somewhere where you could say, okay, that's a fourth line type of salary, maybe possibly a third line. And then this is just, I know when it comes to the rise in cap, it's not always linear. Some years it might be 10 million, some years it might be 8. I'm just going to assume that because it's going to the expectation that is going to raise to 104, I'm just going to make a projection that it's going to raise at an average of 9 million over the next 5 seasons after this year. So that would make the total cap at around 130, 140 million. So if it gets to 140 million, Brad Marchand's cap hit will take up 3.73% of the cap in his final year. So like you said, even if he is buried into the fourth line, that salary seen as for fourth line player, it won't be extremely detrimental to the Panthers for their future.
Yeah, I mean, and the Panthers have constructed this team with a lot of things in mind as far as analytics are concerned, but as well as the salary cap. As you can see, they're willing to lose pieces and sign guys to 1-year deals at certain positions. And some teams will throw even more money than that at a fourth liner. in some sense. And so by the time you get to the latter half of that contract, as you said, it doesn't seem that bad in comparison to other fourth liners, especially a fourth liner with some actual pedigree like Marchand.
Yeah, no doubt. And thankfully, with as you mentioned, the pedigree and what he has proven, everything from here on out, it's just a celebration of of multiple great runs. And the fact is that the family is together for multiple years. But Francisco, I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can follow you and your work online.
All right, FLA Cats history, having fun in this offseason. Mike White already modeling the stuff for me, so you can get my stuff on the merch stores there as well. At Marlins history, the Fish are doing better than expected, which is nice to say for the first time in quite a bit now. So that's a lot of fun. As far as what I've been posting, FLA Cats history, I recently went back to the arena, had a nice little preview of the new scoreboard. It's not complete yet. They still got a few more things to go, but yeah, it's a big boy. It's a big boy, all right? So I'm very excited about that, and really excited for the upcoming season. We're about to get to training camp soon enough next month, so the run-up is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see that scoreboard on October 7th against the Blackhawks. But Francisco, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again very soon. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Francisco Oporta. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.